All right, good morning. Welcome into the morning drill. 7 o'clock here on a Thursday morning already. Hard to believe and a bit foggy out there. Mark, I don't know if you caught any of the storms last night, but...
Yeah, I did actually.
Wow.
They rumbled through, and they were pretty loud. And then I drove through the fog all the way up this morning.
Oh, you're always in the
like,
fog.
I know, but it was... Oh, go away.
All right. Joining us first thing this morning is Mr. Kevin Vinson. Good morning, sir. How are you today?
Hey, good morning. I'm doing great, Luke.
Thank you for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
You are the department chair for the music department, correct?
That's correct. Yep, for Titusville School District. I teach elementary music, then also I'm the chairman of a 6-person music department.
Wow. Now, we're going to talk about this department because it is... it's been amazing to watch just everything come together the last couple of years. And I don't know, this year, just you have all these kids fired up over music, whether it's band or chorus and the musicals at the high school. I mean, everything has just been phenomenal this year.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's a great staff. It is exciting to be able to work with, like I said, we have 6 teachers in the staff, 1 at the ECLC who's new this year, Sarah Hofstetter, and then I teach elementary music along with Stephanie Cicero. We have Lane Fortney at the middle school, and then Andrea Strong and Mario Stefanina at the middle school and high school. So that's our group put together. And you're right, has been exciting. We have a great group of kids going through our programs right now, particularly the performance groups, like you mentioned, the band and the chorus. And as you get that and it starts to build, it's neat to watch those kids kind of build the program themselves, bring other students in, recruit students coming up.
Well, let's go back a couple years, and I remember doing football games, and I don't know, 3 or 4 seasons ago, and the numbers in the band were down, but you know they still went out, did their best, and then it seemed like a year later, something happened. Those numbers increased, but the band sounded phenomenal, and then the last couple years, just been amazing to watch them perform at halftime or before the games or after. What is it?
It's a combination of many things. Part of it, there are some things. We got new uniforms, and when you get new uniforms, that always creates some excitement. They've taken some trips with both band and choir. The band just got back from Chicago,
wow.
which was a great experience for them. The choir's looking at a Nashville trip next year, so that helps it with
now, will
some
you
of
be
the
on
recruiting.
that one?
Well, they always fall right around my son's birthday, so I haven't been able to go on most of those trips.
I thought that would put you close to Elvis. So
well, there's a good chance, but yeah, when I was band director, I went on a trip right after my son was born, and that was a touchy situation. So, so now with his birthdays, I try and avoid traveling at that time, but that's part of it, and. Sometimes there is just a natural ebb and flow to it. It's a difficult thing to be for example, in a marching band that's small. Whether it's our school or I've seen other school districts, and your heart goes out sometimes to those kids because they're doing everything they can, and sometimes they take heat because it's a small group and it's not their fault. They're out there doing it, but like I said, It gets some momentum, I guess, is a good way of looking at it. That once it does build, and the marching band did sound fantastic this year. I thought. I thought that Mr. Stefanina did a great job with his staff putting that together. And when you have that kind of success, it's a lot easier the next year to get kids out on the field and to convince them. And the other thing is he runs a great program. With parent involvement, and as you get those parents involved, they see how he works with the kids. They see, his rapport with the students and the benefits of the program.
Well, there's obviously a great deal of passion that these instructors and band leaders bring to their students. This last week, I was privileged to be able to see the middle school spring concert with the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and the staff is just wonderful. There's an excitement that somehow gets brought out by these instructors, and I complimented both band directors as I left because I was in a school band up until the time I was a senior in high school. Now that's decades ago, but even so, it's nice to see kids and staff that excited over what it is that they do. They obviously love what they do.
They do, and they put a tremendous amount of time into it, but it's because it's a love. They're willing to put in those after-school hours and rehearsals, and that's great to hear, that comes across to the public. That's wonderful.
Well, I had heard also, I think one of the jazz groups came in at 7 in the morning to rehearse. That's got to be some dedication. You have to like it to do that.
Yeah, to convince middle school students to wake up early. That's true.
It was well worth it. They sounded really good.
I would imagine, kind of like sports at an early age, if you, as a teacher, if you don't get them early on, they're going to lose interest and might not want to participate in it later on. I just think about the kids with baseball or soccer today, at that rec level. As a coach, if you're not making it fun for them, they might just write it off when they could be really good. It seems like you have the staff that can get that excitement, generated, and music is fun, and you can teach, and the kids are willing to learn because it is fun.
Well, and that's being at the elementary level. That's part of what I get excited about, is you're in at that ground floor. I work with the beginner instrument program, the 5th grade instrument lessons, which is the first year that we offer. And I had been at the high school. I love that. Each stage of my career I've loved, but it's really neat to be in there when they go from the first lesson not knowing how to put the instrument together, let alone play it, to by the end of the year, hopefully they're successful and can play several songs that are recognizable. The amount of progress from the winter concert, even where they're still in that very beginning stage, to the spring concert when a lot of squeaks and the squawks are gone and they really have that nice sound. But that's part of it. We've been so fortunate with our beginning instrument program. We have a very unique program that we offer school instruments free of charge for both 5th and 6th grade. For any student who wants to play. And I would say it's probably about 95% of our students are playing completely free of charge, whereas in almost any other school district you would be paying $20, $30, $40 a month to rent an instrument. And that's been a huge bonus for us, because we've got a lot of kids that either couldn't afford it, or just the parents may not want to make that commitment. They've seen their kids try a couple things and not stick with it, and they say, boy, I don't want to get into a contract to have to rent an instrument if that may not be for them, whereas this gives them 2 years of trying it out.
That's great. I remember the truck would pull up, and all the parents were in the room with the kids, and it's like, well, what instrument do you want to play? And you're looking down at the price list, and I can't remember, clarinet, $800, $900, saxophone, $1,200, or whatever it was at the time. And, the parents saying, if you're going to do this, you're going to stick with it for a while. And you don't really want to have that, but this sounds like this is an opportunity for somebody to say, yeah, you know what, I'd like to try to play clarinet or flute or trumpet or trombone. And, maybe, and I don't know if this is the case, but if they don't particularly like that instrument, can they then switch to try something else, or do you want them to?
Well, they can. We try to discourage that, just because the way I put it to the kids is you're constantly a beginner. If you're a beginner on clarinet and you play that for a year, and then you say, no, I want to try trumpet, you're a first-year trumpet player in a second-year band.
Okay.
And so we do a lot to try to get them on the right instrument at the beginning. Over the summer, we do instrument fittings. I'm actually just completing my 4th grade sign-ups now. By the end of this school year, the 4th graders have signed up to play in 5th grade band. And the thinking is then over the summer they can come in. We set aside a week where myself and several other music teachers get together, and they can try any of the instruments, all of the instruments that they want to. We'll take them through it. And it only takes about 15, 20 minutes, but it makes a big difference, because sometimes kids will think they want a certain instrument, whether it's just that they've heard that instrument before or their friends are going to play it, whatever the reason is. They come in and try it, and it's kind of funny how quickly it happens, but 2 minutes in they say, I don't like the way this one feels at all. And yet they'll find something else. And oftentimes there are 7 instruments, different instruments that we offer. Oftentimes they'll end up walking out with their seventh choice becoming their first choice, just because
Wow.
after they've tried it, they just, it's hard just from paper to say, well, I think I want this instrument. So that helps us get them on the right instrument and hopefully keep them there as they go through our program.
See, that's the right way. What I did was I said, boy, she's pretty. I really like her. What's she playing? And that's what I did so I could sit next to her.
Well, we probably get some of that too.
But, I picked clarinet, but, it was a lot of fun to play that. And you learned a lot in music, and more than just music, but I have a love of music. So it was nice to be able to learn to read music and to appreciate that. A variety of things that we played. So,
well, and a lot of times what we'll do is we'll see students that are successful at music that may not see a lot of success in other classes, and that's one of the reasons why I'm so glad that our school district has been tremendously supportive of the arts, particularly in a difficult time when there's a lot of education budget crunches, and I talk to colleagues who either their jobs are in danger or their programs are being cut, and ours, that just hasn't been the case in Titusville. And it's just so important because there are these students that may struggle in some of the academic subjects, and they come into music and they just find that that is a strength of theirs, and that's something they really can excel in. And whether it's music or art or phys ed, those subjects are so important because you get a well-rounded individual then.
I don't see how you could look at this particular program, especially this year. And again, I'll go back to football. I'll go back to the winter concerts, the musicals, the spring concerts. And you even said, I remember at the winter concert, you said, we're gonna play something for you now that we haven't practiced. We're gonna play it again in the spring, and you're gonna see that. And I remember covering that, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, that's incredible.
Yeah, that was Mr. Stefanina did that, and even I have to say, I wonder how this one's going to turn out. But I mean, that's a risk to take. But it was great. They did that same piece then at their bands in the round, so they did it 3 months later. And it's just amazing the difference. And part of what he's just pointing out is sometimes people think, well, once you can play an instrument, you just go in and sit down and play, and what does the teacher do? And he said, no, we are a class, we're educational, and we work to put this piece together, and it's great when it sounds so nice that people say, oh, that just sounded simple, but it takes a lot of work to get it to sound simple.
Well, yeah, and it's not just the music and the way they sound, but if you watch the students perform, even on stage, when they do a stage performance, there's a lot of flair that gets developed. And you see that between the winter and the spring. And I've watched Mr. Stefanino on any number of occasions. I mean, he obviously practices with the marching band, and you get a real feel for the motion that they have to go through. But watching the way the students conduct themselves on stage, the way they come in and out, the way they seat themselves, there's a great deal of pride there, and it shows. It really does.
There is. And we talk about concert etiquette for the students. A lot of times we're thinking of the audience, but there's a lot of that professionalism. Yeah. And again, that starts right with Miss Hofstetter at the ECLC when she's putting kids up there, and it may be tough to tell at that age. You go and the kids are waving to their parents and things like that, and it's great. It's cute, but at the same time, you're also teaching them a little bit of that etiquette that when you're up there on those bleachers, we expect you to sit up straight, and we all sing together, and this isn't the time to talk to your neighbor, and that's the very beginning level, and it goes through right up until you see the high school, and they're dressed in the black and white, and they're up there. I mean, choir holding the folders at the spring concert, and learning as simple as that, how to hold a folder and still sing out to the audience, so that you're not singing to the ground.
Right.
But all those things have to be taught because, particularly in Titusville, there aren't always as many opportunities to see professional groups. So it's up to the teachers to show what that level looks like.
Must be kind of challenging to do that too.
It can be, but technology has been great for us. It's nice now. You can go on YouTube and get a performance. I do that with the elementary all the time. That if we're talking about what a concert looks like, I can get a great concert choir performance, and I can show them what it looks like. I can make a video of my kids practicing, and we can look at the differences sometimes. Yeah.
You were talking about how other districts are looking at various programs for cuts for their budget. I would imagine, though, again, especially looking at this year and just the amount of talent that is showcased, that's got to be a very difficult thing to even consider when you look at what music has brought to a lot of these students. And it seems like Titusville is very rich in the arts, and even what Arts Council brings to the table with the Monday night concerts in the park and the Pittsburgh Symphony Brass, and summer theater, and I can't imagine even considering making a cut in music education.
Well, and I would hope it never happens here. I certainly don't see it on the horizon here. From so many levels. Our administration, Karen Jez and Terry Kerr, have always been directly behind it. And the philosophy has always been, if it will affect our students negatively, we're not doing it. That's the number one factor. We'll find a way to work around it. Our school boards have always been very supportive. We've had several retirements over the past few years. And we've replaced those teachers because, again, it came down to, are the students going to be negatively impacted? If we don't, where's that threshold where we say, okay, this we just cannot offer what we need to? Our community has, and you mentioned it with the Arts Council, with some of the programs we do have here. For a city our size, we really do have a thriving arts program. And we get so much community support. The program I was saying where we offer the instruments, the school district has been behind it, there's no doubt, but it also wouldn't have happened without the community. We got close to $200,000 from the Reese Foundation over several grants. We've had a lot of individual donors. I'd have to go back and look. I'd say we probably got somewhere maybe around 30 instruments that were donated to us.
Wow.
And for $30, $40, we can fix them up. A lot of times people feel bad. They bring in a clarinet and say, oh, it's been in the attic for 20 years and I don't know if it's any good. And a lot of times, $30, $40, it's fixed up. We've got it out into students' hands, and we can then use those for years. That's the neat thing is once you get the instrument, and if you maintain it, and that's where the district's made a commitment to set aside that money that each year we send. I'm doing that now, collecting instruments from the fifth graders, and then we take a huge shipment to the repairman and keep him busy all summer long. 150 instruments go out over the summer, but it's community support. One quick story: we have an anonymous donor that bought a brand new instrument, a flute, and then said, "Find somebody to play it." We did, and he said, "Now I want to pay for lessons." And that student was in middle school. Student is a senior now, just played her last high school concert, got the John Philip Sousa Award, which is given to the outstanding band student each year, and has taken lessons for probably been 6 years, something like that, all because of this donor. He's paid for every lesson to do that, so she could do that. So that's the kind of community support we have, which that's why I say it's nice for me to be able to be here and talk with you. But when I start saying, well, it's my staff, it's the school district as a whole, it's the community, it really is true. And you take out any one of those components, and it starts to get shaky.
I could imagine department meetings being a lot of fun. I mean, just getting I don't know what the process is. I mean, are you guys planning a year ahead, or
sometimes we're planning a year ahead, sometimes we're barely hanging on, but our concerts we plan a year ahead. We have a scheduling meeting, I think it's next Wednesday, where we put all our calendars on the concert, or our concerts on the calendar, because what we want to do is make sure we avoid conflicts. And that can be tough to do. December, you know, because you cover them, that December there are 2-3 concerts a week sometimes, and we really have to coordinate that with ourselves, but also with the athletic programs, things like that. We try to minimize those conflicts.
And I've noticed that there are a lot of athletes that are involved in the music program as well. I've seen. And not to name any, but there's a couple that are.
And over the years, that's something that we've been able to do very well. We've been able to keep we've been able to keep the kids able to do other activities. It hasn't become an exclusive. Once you're a music kid, you have to. That's it. That's all you can do. Whether it's athletics or some of the other academic clubs, different things like that.
And that seemed like when I was going through school, that seemed to be sort of how it was. If you're a business, major, this is, you need to focus over here. If you're going to get into music, you need to do this. If you're going to do computers, you need to. But now it seems like there's a real partnership between departments saying, okay, why not let a kid, play basketball and sing in the choir, or play basketball or football and do this. So
Right.
It seems like there's more openness to that.
Well, we're a small district. And if everybody starts having a turf war, picking their kids, you're going to end up with no program succeeding. I mean, you're going to end up with every program, with too few students. We just don't have that kind of pool to draw from. And more than that, it goes back to what I said about being a well-rounded student. I love music. I love it. I teach music. I play. I perform in a lot of different area groups. But when it comes down to it, that's one part of who I am. And it should be the same for the students, too. I want them to love the music. I want them to be part of it. But I don't want them to ever feel like I'm only allowed to do something if it's part of the music department. I can't do anything else. That's doing them a disservice.
What I find probably the most fascinating about at least the concert band is just, and I don't know, I think it was Fortney at the time. You'd hear something on the radio, or just a love of music, and he'd say, take a listen to this, and here's some classical piece, and you just listen to how it was composed, and it just really got you thinking. And then you listen to maybe a pop song, and you can hear some of that orchestration, different instruments, of course, but it's amazing how your mind just starts putting things together once you just get that basic understanding of music.
Sure. And that's part of what we want to do, is get kids excited about music, but we're also teaching them about it. And part of how you get excited is more about it. A football game is more fun to watch if you understand what's happening on the field.
Right.
A concert is more fun to listen to if you understand what's going on. It's great at any level, but if you just kind of go in and say, oh, this is nice music, and don't know anything about it, it doesn't mean as much. When you get to that point where you're listening and say, oh, these instruments are what I'm hearing, wow, listen to that combination, then it takes on a whole new level. It's a lot more interesting.
And I think there's a better appreciation for the students up on stage performing it, because you're going, wow, that's a difficult run, and they did that well. Or
Right. When we do our 5th grade concert, we have the students in the middle school perform for them, because the 5th graders practice at the middle school. So we have the 6th grade band or 6th grade chorus, the 7th and 8th grade band or chorus perform for them for just that reason, because we're trying to recruit those 5th graders to go on. We want them to see what it's like, but they also can look at that and say, wow, their music is harder than ours. And I work with them and say, it is. They got there a little bit at a time. You can get there, but it's a good understanding to know it's not you're just doing the exact same thing. You're going to keep getting better as you do that.
I was also thinking, you mentioned earlier in your conversation here that the band just got back from Chicago, among other things. Do the students get out to, say, some of the more local venues? For instance, I know that some will sing at nursing homes at Christmas time, things like that. Do they have the opportunity to do that?
Well, on these trips, the choir went to Cleveland 2 years ago, and they did exactly that. They sang at a veterans home. The band performed a outdoor public performance in Chicago, so they do performing on those trips as well. A lot of times what they'll do is they'll get to see some kind of show when they go. We try to keep it, it is a school trip. It's an educational experience, and part of that education is watching other groups perform. And Nashville would be a great music city to go to. Cleveland, they did the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So, they're picking destinations where it ties in well to the music as well. That you're picking up all the subjects, but there's certainly a lot of music to be experienced there.
It does sound very well rounded.
Yes, yeah. And it's a process. We constantly are evaluating our curriculum, evaluating what our strengths and weaknesses are, to keep that going.
Does technology play a part? You mentioned being able to pull up a concert on YouTube and letting the kids experience that, but and there's two thoughts here. One, we're very fortunate, Erie, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Cleveland aren't that far from us to get some of that experience. And I know, I think once a year the Presbyterian Church brings some folks down to perform, which is amazing to watch. So we get a little bit of that in the Pittsburgh Symphony Brass. But how is technology also changing music? You see the Apple commercials where people are tuning guitars and stuff with their iPhones. I mean, is that sort of stuff the reality today?
Oh, it is. Creating music is more or less electronic now, at least in the composition phase. I don't think you'll ever lose that human element. I hope you never will. But at the high school, we have a theory and technology course. Actually, it's 2 levels, theory and technology 1 and 2. And they do. I've seen some of the projects they do, and they're just great. The one they did took a storybook, just a children's storybook, and what they have to do is create music to go with it. And it's all done on the computer, all done with software programs they have. But what they do is they create basically the background music, and then they get to present them to the ECLC. They can go over and they can present their stories where they hold up the book and read the book and show the pictures, and then the music goes on in the background. And
that is cool.
But it's so technology driven, and that's part of our responsibility is we have to equip the students to do that. It's not a paper and pencil world. So if they leave, and that's not just music, any subject, if they leave and don't have those technology tools, they're behind. They're at a loss. So that's part of our job is to stay on top of that and see what's coming out. In a lot of cases, it's as simple as websites that are tutorials to practice for kids. We just, with our 5th grade instruments, this was our first year trying. There are a lot of things I'd like to change, but it wasn't a bad pilot year at all, where I created a website and Miss Cicero and I worked together so the students can view these short little video clips. Most of them were maybe 2-3 minutes long that they can practice with. Because when you're first learning an instrument, you go home and you remember what it sounded like in the room, but that doesn't really help you to create that. So being able to, they can play along with us while they're at home. And like I say, there were a lot of successes from that. We saw students play better rhythmically. That was a big thing we saw, because when they play with us, they have to count the rhythms out and stay with us. When you're at home, you can give and take on time and think it sounds great, and then you come back in and get really frustrated because the teacher says, no, you're not playing it right, but you didn't know that. So the technology can be so valuable if we know how to use it right.
You're also choir director at the First Presbyterian Church in Titusville. That's going to be a wonderful opportunity for you to go from working with kids, working with some of the older kids at the school, to going into the church, looking at different kind of music, working with older folks. What's that experience like for you?
It is totally different, and I love it. I love it. The teaching is wonderful, but when you can go in and you can work with adults who are all volunteers, all want to be there, very committed volunteers, that's just a whole different experience. We are very fortunate to have a lot of great people there. And because of that, it allows me to do a level of music you can at the elementary. Like I said, I love teaching elementary, and I get very excited about it. But there are certain things you do, there's certain pieces you can do, there's a certain level you can reach. When you go in with the adults, and I can work with a 4-part choir, whereas most of what I'm doing with the students is unison voices. It's just something totally different to be able to work with. When I can work on shaping a piece of music a little bit more and say, okay, we've got the notes right, let's do more with it. When you're at the elementary, your goal is hopefully we'll get the notes and the words right, and maybe we'll put a little bit extra into it. So it's a neat way for me to keep my skills sharp is part of it too, because when all you hear is one level, you start to just gear towards that. By being able to do different levels, it keeps me thinking.
So it keeps pushing you to maybe
Sure.
go outside of your comfort zone a little bit.
Right. Well, and I'm not a vocalist, so to be doing a choir, that's something, if you had asked me when I was in college, I would have said, no, there's no way. I mean, I still wouldn't do it in a school setting probably. Here, they're accomplished enough, they can put up with my failings, and we can work around it. But that even there, it pushes me out because, saxophone is my main instrument. And that's where I feel comfortable. So, even when I was first offered that choir job, I had to think and pray about that long and hard and say, well, is that the right thing, or am I going to tank this program in a hurry? And they've, like I said, worked around me, and we work very well together.
Well, whether it's the church or the school, it seems like the range of what you're wanting the students to accomplish or experience is I mean, it's vast. I mean, it could be a classical piece. It could be something that's a little more contemporary, but it just seems like you're continually pushing kids to explore, because music's wonderful. And this is going to sound stupid, but rap music. I'm not a huge fan of rap music, but I was listening to just lyrics from Eminem, or listening to the some of the instruments, or or looking at the lyrics. I thought, well, this is really powerful stuff. And here, I just, in my head, I was thinking, I'm not interested in this. But I took a little interest in it, and then I learned that it can be really powerful. And I would imagine that's sort of the same thing that you want a kid to experience, whether it's, Mozart or, Pitbull or Kesha. That range is there for them to learn.
Well, if you learn the skills and techniques, you apply them to whatever your interest is. And that's the neat thing about music. That's kind of what you're saying, that if we get a student who can hear the different parts, who can see the structure of a song, that can be a jazz song, that can be a pop song, that can be a country song, that wherever their interest lies, that they can still take that.
Or an old hymn to something more current. I mean, you're really stretching the boundaries.
And what I find is the best musicians are usually very reluctant to be pigeonholed in any one style. As you talk to somebody who you really respect as a musician, and you say, what's your favorite music? They'll say, it depends on the day, depends on the time. That they'll listen to anything and everything. Somebody who only listens to classical music, kind of purist, and looks down at anything else, they're missing a tremendous opportunity out there. Somebody who only listens to pop and won't listen to classical or jazz. The whole idea, and I think the longer I teach, the more I subscribe to that if a kid can learn something in my classroom and then take it to what they like and what they're interested in, that's what we're there for. Part of that music theory and technology is a music business component, because we know a lot of kids want to go into music and they're not going to be performers. It's very difficult to get into performing, even if you want to. Some might be teachers, but there's so many other careers out there, and that's what we're even showing is, if you want to be a music producer, a pop music producer, here are some of the skills that you still need to have. And they come from school band, from school choir, from the classes that we're teaching. You aren't going to get somebody, even if it's just producing a song, not as the artist themselves, that doesn't know anything about music. They have to be involved in it, and you learn that from the hands-on aspect.
So this is a lot more than just learning the music. This is the artistry, the technology, the business side of it. There's so many things.
Sure, that's one project that they sometimes will do in their class is a project where they're kind of given a budget, and they're saying, okay, you need to produce an album. What do you need to do? What are the steps you take? Who do you contract out to? The artwork for the CD cover. Who's going to write the songs? That sort of thing. If you're going to bring in a string section, how much is that going to cost you to lay down those tracks? That sort of thing. So they'll do a business component of that, because that's part of the music career is seeing what's out there. And even if you are going to be a performer, you better know that side,
right,
or you're going to be in trouble too.
Listen, we could probably spend a couple hours talking. I know you probably should get to school.
Yeah, they may miss me. Yeah.
Kevin Vinson joining us here this morning, and we greatly appreciate your time. We'd love to have you back and continue this conversation. We love music, and it's just, again, it's been amazing to watch these kids especially this year. I don't know what it is, but from football to the winter concerts, spring concerts, the musical, and the number of kids that we interviewed some kids in the Wiz a couple months ago, and over half of them were going to college for music. I mean, that says something.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. We hope they can take it with them no matter what they do. But the fact that they're going into music, I think any music teacher will tell you feel like that's a tribute to what you've done. That not only do they like it so much, and they respect you as a music teacher, that they're willing to say, that's what I want to do. It's not just a hobby for me. That I want it to be my career. And again, my hat's off to every staff member we've got, because that can reach them at any level. I guess just in closing, I'll tell you our high school numbers we're looking at for next year are larger than what we've seen in the past few years, which I just bring that up because I think with our staff, with the program we've got going, I'm not sure that we've peaked. I sure hope we haven't. And I think that's great if we can look that we've got more kids coming through, may be able to do that. So I thank you for having me here. And anytime I'd be happy to come back.
Let's have you back. That'd be great.
Great to do that. But thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to I guess brag a little bit about what our teachers and what our students are doing, because it is neat to see that progress.
Well, there's a real excitement, and no excuses, but I think the black sheep of your family is Lane Fortney. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. It's a great department. Thank you very much for joining us.
Hey, thank you.
We'll have you back. Mark, you've got news coming up next when the Morning Drill continues right after this.